One last one.
Dude, I can't even sit close to you. I was sitting closer to him and he keeps trying to pull my leg hairs out. Like,
It's nervous.
this is gorilla shit.
I'm going for the bugs. There's bugs, man. Let's talk a little bit about stress inoculation. I find it fitting, a discussion to be having after having spent some time in the ShivWorks ECQC class last weekend. We talk about stress inoculation, man. That was pretty wild. There's a lot of intense, a lot of intense training involved in that. Being up close and personal, even just with your target in live fire training, and up close and personal with another human, living, breathing human being who's just simulating doing you harm. But I mean, it gets the point across. So let's talk a little bit about stress inoculation and what it actually is. Rich, this is your idea, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what you got in mind?
Yeah, so I got a couple of different angles to approach this from. So whenever I tell people that I'm an air traffic controller, they say, oh my God, you're gonna die young. That's the most stressful job you could ever possibly have. And I'm like, I'm so happy that you know everything about me and my life and that you didn't just read that online, but okay. You know, there are some really stressful moments. It happens, it does. And what it is the fact that you're culpable, you're responsible for little dots on a radar screen or, you know, wherever, depending if you're in the tower and you're actually seeing airplanes or if you're working the radar and you're just seeing dots. Each dot can represent, you know, up to a couple hundred people. So every time a dot is getting closer to another dot, you know, there are legal requirements for separation, and you know, you have to be accountable. But in the job, you learn an entirely different language. You go through basically a 3-month-long boot camp, and I would rather go through the Marine Corps boot camp again because this one was tough, dude. The first 6 weeks are a basics class. You have to take in a ton of information, and then you have to actually, the second half is an application where you're doing, you're actually working air traffic in a tower, but it's all digital. And you're working through different problems, and you've got instructors there that are teaching you. So the washout rate for my class was 50%. It was tough. It was a tough program, and the craziest part of it was the last day. Right, the guys that some guys went to school for it, and thought for sure that they would do fine. Just the jitters got them so bad, they would just stop. Their brains just stopped functioning. And the point being, like, you don't really know what you're going to do under stress. And what could be more stressful than saying, hey, you're going to have one of the highest paid federal jobs in the country, or you're going to go back to doing whatever it was that you just did because you're not employable, because you can't pass this test. And it was a hard test. And you know, it essentially, operating under stress is a normal condition of the job. It is, you know, not every day. I mean, I don't work at a huge facility at present, but there are days where, you know, you're really coping with a lot of stress. And, you know, that's one angle of approach. Another angle that I was interested in talking about was about doing force-on-force type of interactions, or interactions where you're actually physically being presented with a stressor, because we're talking in the sense of, you know, the firearms world and shooting, self-defense and whatnot. So doing actual simunitions with UTMs, you're not getting shot. You know, there's not really a whole lot of consequence, but they hurt like hell, man. Nobody wants to get.
Yeah.
It's a legion of angry bee stings that you don't want to eat. And I've done a couple of them over the last year and a half, and it's crazy how when you first start it, you're able to do one thing. You know, Phil from Digger Training, great dude, talks about the 3 brains, the lizard brain, the monkey brain, and the human brain. And when we were debriefing, one of the things I was explaining to him, I was like, hey, you know, this time I didn't just point and start spraying. This time I saw that there were sights on the gun and I used them. And he's like, congratulations, you just upgraded to monkey brain.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And later on, you know, that was the the first course that I did for the year, and then I did another course a couple months later, and I was actually able to do a little bit more thinking and analysis under fire, so to speak. And he's like, yeah, that's where your human brain starts coming back in. It's just levels of functionality.
The whole goal is to make it to human brain, make it to that level of cognition.
And the reality of it is, if you're not experiencing some form of stress on a regular basis, be it physically in the gym or, work stress or having to work through problems, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's interesting to me that a lot of people are like, oh, what do you carry a gun for? Why do you need that? And it's like, well, I've experienced things in my life that I would never want to be a victim. I would never want to be in that situation again and not be able to defend myself or the people that I love and care about. So I take it seriously because of my background. But there are people out there that have had no negative experiences. Somebody that I have, a coworker that I have recently, we were sitting and having a conversation about guns, and he's like, "But you keep a gun next to your bed at night? Like, how paranoid are you?" I'm like, and it was funny because there was 2 other people in the room, and they all kind of looked at him and were like, "Do you see what's happening in the world nowadays? Like, stuff does happen, Like, it's not as common as you think. And statistically, most of us are unlikely to ever have to draw a firearm in self-defense, and hopefully none of us ever do. But that being said, it's a possibility, and
I think the statistics you're referring to are actually kind of wrong. You actually have a lot more of a chance of getting involved in some type of violent encounter. I'm not saying using your gun, but getting involved in a violent encounter. And stress inoculation is important. Well, one thing I want to guess on.
Yeah, and you were talking about, having to carry a firearm with you. You look at the recent shooting in Indianapolis, at the Indianapolis Mall. I mean, there was that young man there who was carrying a firearm legally. He had received the training, and he responded to the situation. And he's gone through proper training. He's had that stress inoculation. He was able to think clearly and take care of
the extent to which he was trained, or it's still not really made public. I'm sure at some point it will be, but some people naturally are able to function very, very well under stress, and other people
That's what I was wanting to hit on. All 3 of us being Marines, having served together, we all had very, very similar experiences, and what it means to deal with like heavy weight and stress. And one of the things I found when coming out of the Marine Corps was, I tried to eliminate a lot of stress, and the more stress I started to eliminate, the more I started to actually build it up myself. Like, I feel like for guys like us, especially coming from that lifestyle that we once lived,
function under pressure.
You almost need it. Like, you have to let this beast out every once in a while.
They don't work, but there's no pressure.
You have to test yourself. Be it. That's why so many of us ended up in cop jobs. Or found a passion in jiu-jitsu or other martial arts or fighting and that type of thing.
That's why so many Marines are still fit.
You have to have that. I guess to kind of keep you alive.
Keep you functioning as
a good purpose for stress inoculation is just sanity for guys like us. I quickly immersed myself in college. That was a form of stress, and a completely unfamiliar environment to me, having to be tested out on a regular basis.
How many times have you had the dream that you had to write a paper?
Yeah.
Oh, I still have them.
In an environment
and I hadn't written it, and it was due tomorrow.
In an environment that I didn't want to be in anyway, around people I did not want to be around. And then, so eventually, what you get used to that though. You start getting used to these environments. You start to challenging yourself more and more. How does that work for you? I mean, I imagine having a job in TSA and patent people all the time. Having a job like yours, try to keep planes from crashing into one another and that type of thing. Having that weight on your shoulders, is that like peak?
So something really interesting about the job is it's a lot of people that are very, very, I don't want to say type A because it's like a stereotypical thing to say, but there are people, it's people that need stimulation. So there's like, and sometimes in the winter it'll be completely dead and people will start picking on each other. Fights will start happening. But when there are airplanes pumping and there's a lot of work to be done, everybody's happy and jovial. Like when there's crazy shit going on is when everyone is focused and zoned in. The most dangerous times for all of us, every single air traffic controller will tell you this, when nothing is happening at all, you're most likely to make your mistakes because you're so accustomed to working and functioning at that high level and being tuned in. It's like a light switch, you know what I'm saying? When you're working and it reaches a certain point where you're like, okay, it's on. Your brain is just, it's like for me, it's like a turbocharger. You're all of a sudden, that information starts feeding and the processing system is running that much faster. And you feel alive, man. It's like adrenaline though, you know? But it's a stress, it's a form of stress. And the differences in stress are you can have a negative stress, which is going to crash you, or you can have what's called eustress, which is, it's a stress, but it's a stress that forces you to function. And I think what being in the military, what being an air traffic controller, being like a SWAT police officer, for example, is you train and you develop the skills that turn stressors into eustress, and you become, and essentially it's inoculation. It's like a vaccination, you know? And I'm sorry, I don't want to talk about vaccinations. It's a sensitive time. But you become through kind of like a trial by fire, you know what I'm saying? How many times do you think that those big city SWAT teams that serve high risk warrants, they spend a lot of time training, you know what I'm saying? Navy SEALs, they spend most of their time training. Marines, they spend their time training. It's that training constantly doing. Air traffic controllers, you train on the job. So you're working live airplanes with somebody sitting over your shoulder telling you don't fucking do that, you know, or hey, that was good. You know, and that is the most stressful thing I've experienced is having somebody's life in my hand and having to listen to somebody here while speaking to somebody else and trying to put it all together while you're trying to apply a rule book that's about that thick to the situation.
And you know, it doesn't even have to be that complex. I mean, it's one thing I see in the ECQC.
Super good at simple.
One of the things I see in the ECQC class, and I found really, really interesting when we were going through these different evolutions, is, you know, there's a couple of times where I'm having a conversation with a guy who I'm trying to keep at a distance and try to control the situation the best I can, and the dude ended up attacking me. He punched me. What did I do? I took the punch and hit him back. I hit him back a little harder, and I struck him again and again and again. But that was me. I've been hit in the face before. I know what that's like. I responded accordingly with how I knew how to handle that, right? When some other folks who've never, you could tell, never been hit before in their life, you see them get hit and they're almost like pause, like,
how dare you?
How dare you?
What do I do with
strike my face?
What do I do with this? Well, what you're about to do with this is
You're about to get hit again.
You're about to get hit again, and this dude's going to take advantage of you because he's going to immediately see this. But if you haven't had that exposure,
when you're
you don't know what to do with the situation. So that ties into what you wanted to discuss about firearms training or self-defense and that type of thing. The other thing is completely off the subject of fighting. One of the biggest stressors of my life, that's also it was probably the biggest joy of my life, is being a father. That fear of the unknown, man, that is stressful. And when they get to start walking and running around all over the place, you're like, whoa, right?
You're liable.
Eventually, you start to get inoculated.
Yeah.
A little bit at a time. A little bit at a time. It's like after a while of watching Kipley run into things and realize he's not made of glass, you start to be like, man, he'll only put that spoon in the light socket once. You start to get a little bit more, I guess, resilient to it.
And that's why I say
I mentioned that because you're kind of at that stage now where I can remember feeling like, oh my God,
Yeah, so like I have a back porch and we have stairs and we have a baby gate in front of it and it's for the dog right now, not the baby. But
How old's August?
he's 9 months. I will not walk down the stairs with August. I go out through the front door, even though it takes me longer to get in the garage, because I will not walk down the stairs with August because I'm afraid, I'm a big dumb doorknob and I trip over everything, that I'm going to fall with my son down the stairs. And so I just
Walking and chewing bubble gum is also.
right. Or breathing. So I get so stressed out over that. Like, it is a simple process that I do every single day, but I will not do it with my son because I just sit there and like play it through my head like this is all the things that could go wrong, and I don't want to hurt my son. So I'm like, we're gonna just take the long way around and walk out through the front yard because Daddy doesn't want to fall down the stairs with you. Like,
it's funny. I mean, I honestly, I don't know that I've ever really thought of it like this up until now, having this conversation. But the stress that you're under holding him now and not doing certain things is still not as great as it was the day he was born.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
It'll disappear at some point.
You're slowly being inoculated.
yeah, I've cried very few times in my adult life. That's not me just being a hard ass. It's just like, just haven't had a reason. And one of them was when he was born, he had to go into the NICU, and I was losing it because we didn't get to see our son for 2 days. And it was over something simple, but it's like going in there and seeing our son, and then he's all hooked up to all these monitors and everything. Oh man, the stress of that was just killing me. Like, my wife who just had a kid was comforting her husband who's crying because his kid's in the NICU. Like, man.
Yeah, it's terrifying, man.
Yeah, it is.
Terrifying.
And relating all that back to, what Apache Solutions is all about, and you're training yourself to become better, to become a more proficient. And you're not just training yourself with firearms, you're training yourself with medical equipment. You're training yourself to be a better contributing member of your society. Right. You know what I'm saying? You're taking people and making them into something better, and that's a phenomenal thing to be able to do. And as a person, especially for women, like Maria, for example, she would openly tell me, like, no, I want you to come with me to the grocery store. I was like, why? Because I'm afraid I don't want to go by myself. And she's spent a lot of time training now, and she's so much more confident. She's like a different person. She is willing to go out and
Isn't that crazy? Those levels that you see people go through.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really is.
The importance, and we talk about stress inoculation and the importance of this, but really just the importance of waking up and realizing that you are vulnerable.
Yeah.
And no matter who you are, no matter how much badass you think you
could
are,
be the best shot in the world.
vulnerable.
Yeah, it doesn't
You're
matter.
vulnerable in certain areas, man. And that's, and I hate to keep plugging Craig, but that's something that he was really good at, is orchestrating these events to specifically target individuals who, like, some of the strongest dudes you've ever met. And he'd find a hole where you're weak, and he'd tear you apart with it for the purpose of this right here, exposing you to it, so this, if this ever happened, it won't be the first time, right? If this ever happened in reality, it won't be the first time. And I'm sure Maria at one point in time was completely oblivious to her surroundings. Never
When I first met her,
never thought for a second anybody would harm her. And then it went to, oh crap, there is something happening around me. I am vulnerable, and I don't have the skills to deal with it. That's a really important step. And then it gets to that level of confidence where I now have the skills to deal with certain things.
Confidence and capability.
I'm still fearful of the unknown in certain areas, but I have the skills necessary, man. And that's a really important,
And it comes
path
back
across.
to being happy. That's like what this all boils down to is, I think for us, we've all reached a stage in our lives where we're just doing okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, nothing's going too bad. It's life is good, and you're doing work, and you're making progress, and good things are happening for the most part. As a generally for all of us is what it seems. And being able to look at something that's stressful to you and knowing how you're going to respond, because you can never inoculate yourself against every situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
But I think that the core components of it are train your mind and train your body.
Yeah.
Train your mind and train your body and understand how to de-escalate yourself. You know what I'm saying? There are some days where you just get so wound up around the axle, and what do you do? What do you do? What is your method? How are you going to decompress? How are you going to take all of that stuff that happened, you know? And debriefing yourself is something that I do all the time. If I haven't something that I didn't like happen at work, I will. Sometimes it'll take me 2 or 3 days, but I will feed that. I will go back and I'll watch the tapes on what I did wrong. You know, like, one of the things, and just to bring it real quick back to air traffic control, is sometimes you get so overloaded that you get tunnel vision. There's 2 planes going at each other. I got to do something. I'm talking to them immediately as fast as I can. My voice is getting really tight. I don't know what to say. I'm talking so fast that they're barely hearing what I'm saying. And then I resolve that and I look up and there's something else happening here. Oh shit, and now I'm behind. And when you get behind, it's like you're underwater, right? It's like I look at plugging into the job as you're standing in the pool, right? And the water keeps coming up and up and up. And now after the 3rd thing that I'm chasing, and I'm now 5 or 6 transmissions behind that I needed to be making, you're just like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. And you're starting to flail and paddle. And the difference between somebody who's newer on the job is that they need somebody to help them. They need somebody to come up and be like, okay, pick you up and keep your head above the water, versus the people that are more experienced and that have been doing it for a longer time. You learn the outs. You learn how to catch yourself up. You learn how to tell everybody. You just get on the frequency and say, everyone, you know, if you're not this person, be quiet.
Right.
I will get to you. You know, you got to own that. You got to take ownership. But that is how you resolve that issue. But then later on, when you're thinking about it again at home, you know, how do you resolve that? Train your mind, train your body. That's, for me, I go to the gym. I love working out, and it's maintaining that physical structure is, you know, you balance yourself hormonally, you balance yourself physically, you feel better, you know, what you eat, what you put into your body, it all comes together with the whole program of stress inoculation. You know what I'm saying?
I tell you, I think one thing, and we'll close this up. I'll say one thing that's really, really important, I believe, in terms of growth, not just in stress inoculation, but in terms of growth, period, is being honest with yourself, not lying to yourself, not saying, I got this, bro.
Accountability.
I got this.
Accountability.
Do you? How do you know you got this? And when was the last time you pressure tested this? Because at the end of the day, and I'll plug John Hearn here, your subconscious knows. Your subconscious knows,
That's
and
why you get
that
nervous.
is really what's going to determine whether or not you respond accordingly, right? I think you and I are probably going to have quite a few more conversations about, you know, cognitive skills and that type of pressure testing and stuff, because it's really interesting to me, the whole cognitive process that's developing as stress or as situations start to heat up.
I would say
and that type of
degenerating.
thing. Yeah.
Instead of developing.
Yeah.
It's a developing situation, but your cognitive function is going down. You know, that old gross motor functions, that's why you need to rack the slide instead of hitting the slide release. Well, yeah, I don't remember who was saying that, but it's like, well, if you can hit a magazine release, you can probably hit that slide release. Yeah. That was one of the funny things for me. I was like, I henceforth switched to slide release, but you know, it's that gross motor function thing is real. It's definitely, it's real. You can be so overwhelmed. I was talking the other day about, you know, I thought somebody was walking into my house and I couldn't lock my door because I was throwing so much weight into the door that I was pushing the deadbolt past where it can lock.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, something that I do probably 10, 15 times a day. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know? But I was able to process and say, okay, screw this. I'm gonna go handle this in a different manner, and you know. So
Well,
mental flexibility and training yourself and knowing your own capability, know thyself is one of the most important things. And that's why a lot of those people that failed at the FAA Academy failed, because they thought that they had it. They thought that they were good, when a lot of the rest of us were like, I'm going to try my hardest because I don't think that I have this. You know what I'm saying? That's what kept us studying more than everybody. That's why the people that succeed in this life are the people that realize that they don't know shit.
yeah.
There's always somebody who's better and stronger and faster, and that's one of the things you come out of the Marine Corps knowing, is that there's some big gorilla-looking dude who is going to be way tougher than you.
Yeah.
You know, you're never going to be the toughest, the meanest. It doesn't matter. You don't need to be. You need to be yourself and know yourself and always strive to be better. Martial arts instructor that I had when I was really young, well, not very young, 17. That seems really young now. So, be content, but never be satisfied. Be content with who you are. Love yourself. Never be satisfied that you are the best that you can be. Be better every day. Sled, suck less every day. That's the acronym, but
I do it.
yeah.
All right, man. Well, I think that kind of wraps it up for stress and how it applies to our daily lives. And hopefully that's helped our viewers and listeners deal with stress a little bit better, hopefully in a more healthy manner. You know, there are negative ways to deal with stress, drinking and drugs and that type of thing. You got to find a cleaner route, man. You really do.
I'll take it on your family.
That's right. All right. That's all we got for you guys today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment down below what you want to listen to, what you would like to listen to next time. Thanks, guys. We look forward to seeing you out here.
See ya.